So here we are at the Griffith Observatory in LA, and this lesson's going to be about stabilizing your camera and doing photography in situations that a lot of people can't. Okay, so I want to teach you, and especially this goes out to someone who wrote me, emailed me, and asked me. He asked me a question, but he also told me that he left his tripod at home and he's on a pilgrimage through Israel, and he was bumming so bad because he doesn't have his tripod. Well, I want to teach you, sir, who wrote me, and everyone else who's watching, how to do great shots in low light without a tripod. And so simple techniques, it's like magic, okay? When you learn this stuff, the techniques are so simple that you think, man, that's so damn simple, and it becomes less mystical and less amazing. But it's amazing that you're after the shots, okay? When you learn the techniques, I'm just trying to warn you that, don't be let down by how simple they are. Just be excited about the fact that you can do them now, okay? All right. Today's lesson is going to be very basic, okay? It's going to be about how you hold your camera, but it's also going to be for advanced users as well, because we're going to talk about some advanced techniques to holding your camera and how you can, stabilize it and get shots, even at what would be considered normal speeds, and what would be considered doing a slow shutter speed shot. So for my friend who's in his pilgrimage out in Israel, you're going to be probably at nighttime, and you're going to be doing some stabilized shots, doing stabilization with, just what you got, So I'll teach you how to do that. But first, we're going to talk about how to hold your camera, okay? So to those of you out there, if you have a bigger lens like this, or even if you have a smaller lens, the proper way to hold your camera is to set the weight into your hand, this hand, okay? So the camera's going to be sitting like this, and that's how you're stabilizing it, like this. This hand is going to stabilize it as well, but it's to shoot this and to balance. So with your two hands together makes for a more stable thing. But if you're going to take one hand away, it's this one. If you take this one away, you're going to be way less stable. You're not on that center of gravity, okay? This actually has a mount for the tripod, and the mount is the center of gravity. If you put it on there with the camera's weight and the lens's weight, this is going to be your point where you want the tripod to be, because it's the center where all the weight is going, okay? So, you can balance it like that. You want to hold your camera and let that work with you, okay? And then this hand is going to be to move it like so, okay? When you're holding your camera and you have your hand underneath it and your other hand on the shutter, this is your shutter button. You want to get a nice fine grip. When you turn the camera and you shoot like this, you're going to be, you can kind of hold it suspended from here. You hold it like this, well, not up to your ear, but you hold it with your hand like this, and then this hand supports here, okay? This hand is always going to be your zooming and your focusing hand, of course, it's on the lens. But when you do it, you want the camera to be sitting on your palm, and then with your thumb, like so, you can zoom. Or your two fingers, your thumb and your finger, like so. You just zoom, you focus, okay? You don't want to take the lens cap off. You're wondering why you can't see anything, it's because stupid lens cap is on. All right. So when you look through your lens, when I look through my lens, I go ahead and I'm not sure if you know what eye you are, if you're left or right-eyed, but it kind of makes a difference sometimes, okay? Most of the time I look with my left eye, but if I'm shooting a sporting event, I'll look through my right eye and leave my left eye open, and I see through here, and I could see what's going on around, especially with the zoom lens. You can see what you're photographing, and you can see what's going on around it so that you're not missing anything that's right there. Something can catch your attention and you can turn quickly and photograph it, okay? So when you're holding your camera, you're going to know that you're holding it so that you're centering the weight. You're going to know which eye is going through. The reason I wouldn't do it this way is because you get this camera here. But if you go this way, you have a free view with your other eye. So you feel kind of like RoboCop, and you feel awesome when you do it. But, that's just how it goes. When stabilizing your camera, there's a good rule of thumb to follow, which is that the focal length is equal to the shutter speed that's going to be your maximum shutter speed. So this here is a 200 millimeter zoom. So if I'm at 200 millimeters, if I don't want any shake in my picture, I don't want to go any slower than a 200th of a second. It's just a rule of thumb. If you can stabilize your camera, which I'm going to teach you how to do, you can go below that. But that's about the point that a novice is going to be able to set up and shoot handheld and still get a decent shot, a usable picture, without movement and whatnot. Unless, of course, movement's what you want. So if you think about it, the wider your angle, so if you're using a 24 millimeter zoom, that means you can use, a 30th of a second or a 15th of a second, right around there. and you're still not going to get any shake. So you can get a longer exposure even if you can go beyond that, and you know you can do. I can personally shoot. You know, well, I'm going to show you some of the techniques where you can shoot a 5 to 10 second shot handheld in the night and still get a decent picture. So we'll try it and we'll see how it works, and you know, hopefully it works as good as I lead on. All right, so when shooting, one thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you can shoot, you know, to try and stabilize these pictures when you're out, you know, on your pilgrimage and you're you know, trying to get these shots, is to make sure you're shooting at the fastest speed possible, okay? And you know, in order to do that, you're going to want to open your aperture as far as you can go, so that you're letting in more light with your aperture, and then your shutter speed's going to be there. You're going to be able to go faster. When you get to the fastest point your aperture can go, the widest your aperture can go, then you can move into using your ISO, okay, and you bring up the sensitivity. And you don't want to go too far. You don't want to go to the edge of your camera's capabilities, because quite honestly, they're not usable pictures. They're too grainy. They're too crappy, okay. What you want to do is you want to stay as close to, you know, your slowest ISO speed as possible to try and get the highest quality as possible. Okay. Now, if you're handheld, sometimes that's not going to be it's not going to be ideal to even be able to get a picture. You're going to get this grainy, gritty picture. But if that's all you can get, that's all you can get. Okay. So that's the frame of mind you come from when you're thinking about doing something like this. But if you're able to stabilize your camera, such as to put it on a tripod, then your frame of mind goes into, it doesn't matter how much time it's going to be, because your camera is completely stable. The time isn't the issue anymore. What's the issue is the quality. So you can drop your ISO all the way down to 100, or wherever your ISO is, the lowest ISO. Then you can set your aperture to whatever you want your depth of field to be. So if you're taking a picture of a giant landscape, you don't want, you know, one thing to be in focus and everything to be out of focus, like if you were doing a portrait. You know, maybe you do, but if you don't want that, then it doesn't matter. Your aperture, you're not trying to get as much light as fast as possible. You're trying to get the depth of field is what's most important to you. So you can go at, you know, f20, f22, f32 if your camera does that, and you're going to get crisp sharpness through and through the scenery that you're looking at. Okay, if it's a nightscape of a city, or if it's a, you know, if it's a daytime shot of a city, whatever, it doesn't matter. Your aperture is going to be important because of the fact that you can get everything in focus. Your shutter speed then becomes, you know, how slow does it need to go to be able to have an f22 with a 100 ISO? You know, how long am I going to have to shoot? And that's where you're mounting your camera, you're supporting your camera is very important, because you can go 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. You can go as long as you can hold the button. You know, so that's where stabilizing the camera on a tripod, or like I'm going to show you, you don't have to have a tripod to stabilize your camera and get a 20 to 30 second shot, okay? So, you know, keep watching and you're going to find out how. Peace.